Jesus rose from the grave. But leading up to his death, and even though he said he would raise on the third day, it never really happened like that before. When Lazarus had died, but he came back into his old body. Jesus came back into a resurrected body because he went through locked doors. But yet he was able to eat and drink. They could touch him. They saw the nails in his hands and his side, the marks in his side. So he had a bumped up body, that's for sure. And he didn't die again. He didn't die again. He like Lazarus died again. How would you like to die twice? But anyway, that's a whole other. Talk to Lazarus about that. I wonder how he felt about coming back.
He lived 3 times.
Yeah. Wonder how he felt about coming back. It would have been anyway. What now?
No, it didn't record that. He just came out. And they told him to unwrap his...
Yeah, he came. I mean,
No one asked him if he wanted to.
Right, they didn't record his progress or anything.
you know, he's still like Jesus, obviously. You know. They met at his house at one time, another time after that. Love unstoppable. But there's a lot of doubts. Because when the disciples saw Jesus being captured, and Peter took out the sword, sliced off the ear of the high priest, the guard of the high priest. And Jesus went and healed. It's the last recorded time before his death. Jesus healed that guard. I always thought,
My mother?
no. What was going on in that guard? What happened to that guard? I think along the way, he observed Jesus in a whole different way because the blood was coming down in the ear. He sliced the ear off, Peter did. And then Jesus healed, and then Jesus says, those who, this is why, it's okay. This is why I came for this. This is my hour. The disciples were just totally confused. They were out of it. And then, Jesus went through the horrible scourging, all the mockery and a mock trial that was, it made no sense. And then how Jesus from the cross, we had several weeks ago, says, Father, forgive them. And the different things he said from the cross, those are good things to study. I'd like us to look at that down the road. But then finally, Jesus breathed his last breath and he says, it is finished. And he slumped and says that his spirit was released. He gave up his spirit. And he died. And he was buried in a tomb with guards out front. Because there was rumors around that he was going to rise again. So if he really does rise, because we don't believe in resurrection, so we're going to prevent the disciples from taking his body and putting a hoax out there that he did rise. So we're going to put guards out there and secure this, roll this huge stone up. Well, Mary comes on Sunday morning, which is the third day. Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It's on the third day. She comes and brings spices as the story that Glenda shared with us. She came and brought spices, which is for the body, for burial. And care of the body that way. And she went there, and the stone was rolled away, this huge stone. It said there was an earthquake, and one of the other translations says that these angels appeared, and these guards that were there saw these angels and were just freaked out, and they fainted dead cold, and they were gone. They were out for I don't know how long. And Mary just walked right in, said, "Someone's taking a body." And Jesus appears to Mary. He says, "Mary." She said, "Teacher." She grabs him. She says, "Go tell the disciples." The disciples, where are they at? Well, one of them ran down, and another, both Peter and John ran, and Peter got there, and he's just like, I don't know what's going on. He's all weirded out. John went and looked, and then he came back, and it says that he saw, and then he believed. How to have faith when you don't have all the evidence? How do you have faith when you don't see everything? Like Kathy. The evidence says there's something wrong with your leg. The evidence says you've got a major problem. In Jesus, God says you're healed. So how do you deal with that? How do you work with that? How many here are, we talked about, I have resurrection power living on the inside. Sin no longer has domain over us, right? How many sinned this week? You didn't raise your hand, you got a problem. We all sin! So how do you not have, wait a minute, I thought we were free from sin, right? So how does this work? How many know that if we sin and do this and somehow doubts creep in? Doubts are a huge part of our faith. Eli Wiesel says, "No heart is as whole as a broken heart, and no faith is as solid as a wounded faith." How many understand this? How many understand this concept? First time we come to Jesus, it's all fresh. It's like when you just first got married. You're in the honeymoon stage. Everything's perfect. Your husband's perfect. The wife is perfect. The grass is greener. Everything's fine. You come to Jesus, it's all, wow. Isn't that right, Kat? You've experienced that. I'm clean. I'm free. My new life, I've got a new life. My old life's gone. When you start living a little bit, what happens, Sharon? All of a sudden we realize we're not,
It's like we weren't out.
I don't know, we realize it's the concept the theologians call it already but not yet. We have it already but not yet in the full. We have it already but not yet. We have a foretaste. It's like God let us, we can lick the icing off the cake, but we can't have the whole cake until we die and go be with Jesus. It's a foretaste. Here, you know, when I grew up, my grandma, you know, I don't know, to keep me out of trouble or something, maybe she'd put a little stool there and say, "Sift this flour for me." And it's, you know, it's one of those old, you know, you put it in the sifter and you turn the thing. I had no idea what you And when I was done with it, I remember saying, she felt it. You need to sift that again. I don't think I had to sift it again, but it was just to keep me busy. But you know what I always look forward to? Can I lick the spoon? You know, I want to lick the spoon. And she always had that on me. And that's a foretaste. And that was always on Saturday. Because Sunday we would have whatever she cooked, you know, whatever she baked, you know. That was, I don't know, every once in a while you get a little sliver or something, whatever. No, can't have that. You gotta wait. How many want the whole pie? You want it all now. You know, the idea behind, and no faith is as solid as a wounded faith. That's where we grow up. I don't advise that, I don't want people to go through pain in life, but you know what? It's through the tougher times in my life that I've gotten more out of it than the good times. Then I take my doubts seriously and go to God with the real stuff of my heart. You know what I'm talking about? When we bring our doubts to Him. This picks up right after where Glenda had let off. That Mary went to the disciples. Mary went to the disciples with this news. I've seen the Lord. And she told them what Jesus said to her. That he said, meet me at a certain place, you know. And then here they were at this place, and on the evening of that first day of the week, what's the first day of the week? Sunday. That's why we have services on Sunday, because the Jewish people have services on Saturday. It's the Sabbath. This is Saturday. But we, because Jesus was resurrected on Sunday, that's why we have services on Sunday. That's where the tradition comes from. Okay, it's the evening it's Sunday evening. Why did Jesus not show up to the disciples until Sunday evening?
He was down in hell.
I'm not sure. Because he went to the people with the road to Emmaus. He showed up to Mary. I'm not sure who else he showed up to. But the disciples, he didn't show up to them. How many know between hearing the news and Sunday evening, that's called faith? I think he just reached out to Mary because Mary was weeping. Mary was broken. That's what she needed. The disciples needed to wait. It's in the waiting that we learn a lot about ourselves. It's in the waiting that we get squeezed. And we can see what happened to them. On the evening of the first day of the week, the disciples were together with the doors locked for fear of the Jews. What are they doing? They're all locked in their fear. What are they afraid of? The Jews killed Jesus. They're going to probably kill us. We hear rumors that Jesus is alive, but you know, we're his disciples and he never came to us. I mean, I don't know what's going on in their mind, but they're afraid. How many know that fear is a big reason why we do a lot of things? Or don't do a lot of things? Fear. Well, we can't afford that. Why? Well, because we're afraid of this. We need worship leaders. Okay? So Jen will be a worship leader next week, right? No, she might be afraid. What am I going to say in front of everybody? Right? I mean, fear prevents us from stepping out. Because we want to be in our comfort areas. How many want to do that? We want Jesus to make us comfortable. But how many know that since you've opened your heart up to Jesus, life sometimes is less comfortable? Come on now! Isn't that right?
Yep.
We don't even know who we are. We don't know how to act. We don't know how to talk around people anymore. We're not sure who we even are anymore. We know we're not what we used to be, but I'm not what I'm supposed to be, and I don't even know who I am. Right? That's where these guys are at. They're uncomfortable. And look at what happened. Just a couple quotes. Fear is the dark room where negatives develop. What do you think about that? I like that quote. Fear is the dark room where all sorts of negatives develop. You don't know anything about that, do you, Daniel? You know nothing about that dark room. You've never been in the dark room.
No, never.
You've never been there. Fear is the dark room. Oh my goodness, when we start to fear and get anxious and it spins, oh my goodness. All sorts of things can just come up. I like this fear. Fear focuses on the doubts and what ifs. What if this? What if that? I doubt this. I'm not sure about that. I'm anxious about this. It expects failure and defeat. You know, we don't want to believe because we might just get hurt again, right? Why should I believe? I'll get my hopes up and they're going to get dashed. It embraces an attitude of self-protection. You've got to hunker down. What is it about the wagons going?
Circle the wagon.
What now?
Circle the wagon.
Circle the wagons around us. You know, we're going to circle that. That's what they did down in the Old West. They circle the wagons so that the predators, and if they're out, the Native American Indians wouldn't come in. They circle the wagons, just hunker down. Right? Fear tends to run, hide, ignore, get angry, depressed. We pull ourselves away. Isn't that right? I think this is what's going on with these early disciples. That's what goes on in our lives as believers of Jesus. We're afraid too. I'm afraid I really can't follow it. I don't even know if I'm a Christian. Is God real? What's going on? I'm not sure if this is going to work or that's going to work. And we have doubts and we have fears. Here they are. The disciples were locked in their fear. Then Jesus came and stood among them. How did that happen? I thought the door was locked. What, do you have some special skeleton key? Opens it all up?
In a way he did.
You know what this tells me? And it's an assurance thing. Jesus can blow right through your fears. Can blow right through your doubts. You make a commitment to God, which these men did. God will make a commitment to you. And even if our commitment falters, His commitment will never falter. It is His commitment that keeps us. It is His commitment to us. He was committed to the disciples, and He blew right through their fears. He blew right through them. And He said, "Peace be with you." One of the big teachings of Judaism revolves around the word shalom. which is God's wholeness to you. Peace. God's wholeness in your life. And after he said this, he showed him his hands and his side. Why did he show him his hands and his side? Well, it's not said here. What's important about the hands and the side? That's where the marks are. And this is the resurrected body. Why does the resurrected body have marks on it? Wouldn't you think you're going to die and get resurrected again that you would, I don't know, you wouldn't have marks?
I think it's for our benefit.
Talk about that. What do you mean?
Well, it definitely doesn't benefit Jesus to go like, oh, yep, I got these holes in my hands now. But you know what? I can show these guys that I was actually there and that I was actually dead. And then they'll believe it.
The marks are for you and I. So that if they, is that really Jesus? I just sort of want to pinch him. Is that right? I can't believe it. I saw him. I saw him die. I saw them take his body down. I saw him, they put his body in that tomb. Is that him? As soon as he opens his hands, there's that mark. That's him. That's him! And I think also, every time Jesus is about to do something, the marks are right there. I think he thinks about us whenever he does things. Because, so after he said this, he showed them his hands and side. The disciples were overjoyed when they saw the Lord. They could have had joy before, but their faith was weak. Isn't that right? How many of us, the only time we really can have joy in God is when we see it all together and we see everything working out. How's that working? Oh my goodness. It's very difficult to live the Christian life because I can't see it all. I don't have it all together. The figures sometimes don't match. It was a week ago on Saturday, but Ian and I had, we would have got our taxes done. Well,
Did you pay him?
well, no. The good news is we didn't have to pay. The bad news is I didn't make any money. I mean, you can say what you want. I got a business and all that kind of stuff, but that's just the way it is. I need a garage. And well, how do you do that if you don't? I mean, I literally had a loss in my business. That's just the way it is. I don't say that for any pity. I'm just saying, so what do? Well, this and that. Either you trust that God's in your life and you start making the steps, or you freak out and take your life back and do it your own way. We all deal with that on a daily basis. We deal with that with money. We deal with that in relationships. We deal with that with our employers. We deal with that all the time. You guys deal with this stuff? I deal with this stuff. I mean, Jeff, you're trying to work things out with certain relationships. And you know what? If you don't have faith in Jesus, it's a mess.
That's right.
It's a complete mess. And so what do we do with our doubts and our fears and how do we handle that stuff? They went from fear to joy like that. So can we. We can go from fear to joy. Again, Jesus said, peace be with you. And I'm not going to really get into this passage
house? What's he say? As the Father sent me, I'm sending you. And he breathed on them and said, receive the Holy Spirit. And then he's given them a ministry. If you forgive anyone their sins, they're forgiven. If you do not forgive them, they're not forgiven. He says, in my name, if you go out and tell people and forgive people in my name, they're forgiven. I give you that power. All of a sudden, he ushered them into ministry. Would that be the people that you're going to usher into ministry? Oh my goodness. Jesus is asking us to do the same thing he does. Because if he would look at the here and now and say, why should I trust them, right? But he's not. He's got faith in the Father. And the Father says to give that to them. He's not seeing the reality that these... How many know around you some people don't deserve your trust? Come on now. Deserve. I said deserve. They don't deserve your trust. Ask God about it. If you see life through God's perspective, it's different. How about yourself? Have you put yourself down? Say, you know, I can't do this, I can't do this, I'll never do this, I'm just a failure. These guys could have said the same thing. He didn't really give them a chance to walk out of it. How many know that sometimes the biggest limitations is the ones that we put on ourselves? Power perspective. Nothing will ever change. Nothing will ever change us until we come to realize that one of our biggest limitations is our present thinking about ourselves and Jesus. Nothing will ever change. If we start seeing like he sees, we'll start making decisions beyond just the tangible. And we'll start to move and grow. How many understand that? You'll start to move and grow. Have you ever believed that a pessimist is a realist? I was exactly there in my life. And you know, it's kind of a weird, comforting place. It really is. I was there exactly. Life was not going the way I was wanting it to go. I had opened myself up to God before. I'm sure God's around, but you know, it ain't going the way I want it to go. As if it ever should. I was a supervisor at a Jewish community center in Cleveland. East side. I had around 15 employees under me. I was just negative. And I thought, you know, I'm negative because everything around me is negative, and that's just the way it is. And I thought to myself, a pessimist is a realist. Those are the words that came in my head. And I identified with that, and I said, you know what, that's true. Oh my goodness, there's no faith there. There's no vision there. There's no life there. It's a bad place. There's no Jesus there. We believe and achieve what we perceive. At that point in my life, I didn't perceive anything. But if we start looking through God's eyes, we'll see beyond where we're at to the new place that he has for us. But if we just hunker down in our fears, hunker down in our doubts, we're just setting camp and we're going to live in this place. Faith in Jesus expands our perception of reality. and if our perception of reality changes, then we will start moving forward. Now Thomas, he wasn't a part of the 10 where these 10 were in this locked room. Jesus came in. Judas had hung himself. Thomas was not there. How many know sometimes if you're, okay, all the disciples flaked off, right? All the disciples flaked off, right? How many want to hang around a bunch of other guys that are moaning and groaning? Now it says, now Thomas, also known as Didymus, and then there's an A there. That's in your translation too. And the A there means, Didymus means twin. How many know twins? How many have been associated with people who are twins? You know, when they're 1, 2, 3, you know, parents dress them up together, look all cute. But you know what? When they're about, I don't know, when they're 18, they dress like, it's not as cute anymore. It's weird. And you know what? I think Thomas learned to separate himself and become his own person. And he began to think independently. I think that's a good thing, to start to think independently. And Thomas just didn't hang around the other guys. Maybe he was more quiet, but I think he was a more independent thinker. There are 2 other occasions in the Gospel of John that talk about Thomas, and that's about all we know about him on a specific conversation basis. And that would be something good for you to look at. And I looked at those. But Thomas, he was one of the 12, was not with the disciples when Jesus came. So the other disciples, Thomas isn't here. We saw the Lord. Hey, and they found Thomas. They said, we've seen the Lord. But he said to them, unless I see the nail marks in his hands,